Good morning. This is another day that the Lord has made. Let us be glad and find something to rejoice therein. We'll begin this morning with a prayer, and I'll read the scripture and we'll go right into the message. Eternal God, we thank you for yet another day's journey. We ask that you would be with us, you would guide us, you would bless us, you would infuse us with your Holy Spirit. Allow us to meditate on you and think about you and think about your Holy Spirit, and allow your Spirit to speak to us in these times and troubling days that we live in today. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
For those of you who have your Bibles, I will be reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 16 through 39. The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 16 through 39. It says, "Look, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as serpents and harmless as doves, because people will hand you over to the Sanhedrin to flog you in their synagogues. Beware of them. You will even be brought before governors and kings because of me, to bear witness to them and to all the nations. But when they hand you over, don't worry about how or what you will speak, for it will be given to you what to say at that hour, because you are not speaking, but the Spirit of God is from my Father is speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and father to child. Children will even rise up against their parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by everyone because of my name, but the one who endures to the end will be delivered. When they persecute you in one town, escape to the other. For I assure you, you will not have covered the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. A disciple is not above the teacher, or a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to become like his teacher, and the slave like his master. For if they call the head of the house Beelzebub, how much more the members of his household? Therefore, do not be afraid of them, since there is nothing covered that won't be uncovered, and nothing hidden that won't be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the light, and what you hear in a whisper, proclaim on the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. Rather fear him who is able to destroy both the body and the soul in hell. Aren't 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them falls to the ground without your heavenly Father's consent. But even the hairs on your head have been counted. Do not be afraid, therefore you are worth more than many sparrows. Therefore everyone who will acknowledge me before men, I will acknowledge him before my Father in heaven. But whosoever denies me before men, I will also deny them in front of my Father which is in heaven. Do not assume that I came to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I came to turn a man against his father, and a daughter against the mother, and a daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law. And a man's enemies will be that man's members of his household. The person who loves his father and mother more than me is not worthy of me. The person who loves the son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whosoever doesn't take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Anyone finding his life will lose it, and anyone losing his life will find it. I want to use for a thought this morning, we are headed for the revolution. With everything happening today, we aren't paying attention if we are seeing things and getting left behind. We are in the midst of a revolution. Can you tell it? Well, first, let's see what a revolution is, and then let's see if Jesus' day compares to now. Revolution is a forcible overthrow of a government. It is a change in the way a country or a group of people are governed. And that change usually is a change in a political system in some way. It could involve violence, war, or make some kind of change in another way. For example, the French Revolution changed when France came from a monarchy to a republic. In the text today, Jesus was giving his disciples power over the unclean spirits. And as he gave them the power, he gave them a charge to go and proclaim the good news. He said, heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have skin diseases, and cast out demons. In addition to this, it should be noted that the Romans were the reigning world power at the time, and now they are Hellenizing everybody that they conquer. This means that they will follow Greek orders of the day. It means to adopt the ideas and the customs of another people. In other words, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. Do what makes you feel good versus what is right. Enjoy pleasure because tomorrow you may not be here. Execute judgment based off of how you feel judgment ought to be executed. Then they worship whatever they want to worship. They slept with whoever they wanted to sleep with, including somebody else's spouse. They ate whatever they wanted to eat. They drank whatever they wanted to drink. They did whatever they wanted to do as long as it did not rebel against the Caesar of that day. They were compelled to carry a bag 1 mile by the Romans, and Jesus said, if they compel you to carry 1 mile, you carry a 2nd mile for them. Jesus said, for them to change is going to take a lot. But when Jesus came, they said that Jesus changed things. But I think Jesus came to set the record straight. He said, you have heard that it has been said of old times, but I say unto you. In other words, somebody was telling them what somebody said of old times. And Jesus corrected them by saying, but I'm saying this to you. When he did this, he was getting down to the heart of the matter. When Jesus sent the disciples out, he sent them out with power and instructions. In addition to the instructions, he included some warnings. I'm sending you out like sheep among some wolves. If you go out there and see this, and this, and this is how you ought to respond. It would be like a drill sergeant saying, I'm getting you ready for battle. That's why we get up early in the morning and we march into beat. And that's why we say so many steps this way and so many steps that way. I'm getting you ready because what you're doing here in basic training is not going to compare to what you're going to see out there on the war field. But I got to get your mind geared towards this kind of thinking. He offers them a prediction of what will happen. He tells them you're going to be arrested, they're going to beat you, and they will bring you before some powerful people because of me. But he continues to say, brother's going to betray a brother, and family members are going to go against family members. And if they called me a devil, they sure enough going to call you a devil. If they misjudge me, what do you think they're going to do to you? And by the time you get down to verse 34, he spells it out plainly. He said, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. I came to turn a man from his father and a daughter against the mother and the in-laws against each other and make their enemies come and be their allies. When he tells them, whosoever doesn't take up your cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Luke's gospel concludes it this way. In Luke's gospel, Luke says that many of his disciples didn't follow him anymore. As long as Jesus was teaching and preaching and feeding the hungry, and he was handing out fair judgments, and he was forgiving sins, and he was feeding people, and he was showing and doing miracles, let's follow him. But the day he said, now, when we get ready to go to war, you got to be willing to die. Many of them said, well, maybe this movement is not for us. When he told them, be willing to die for what you believe in, that is when they started parting ways. I found that people want change, but they don't want to do the changing. I found that what they want, they sometimes they want things to change, but they don't want to be the change that they want to see. Today, people are still marching, but in a clever way, the marches are being stopped in cities all across America by mandatory pandemic concerns. People are being told to shelter in place where they were getting much press and much movement. This is an elaborate scheme. It's not that the coronavirus is not dangerous. It's not that they hadn't already had all these kinds of problems. But sometimes you have to stop people in their tracks, and you have to slow things down because they may change the order of the day. People claim that they love this country and would do anything for this country. But they've been asked to follow simple protocols such as wear a mask so that if you're sick, you don't help spread the sickness. And yet they are angry. They will pick up guns. They will fight with reckless abandon. They will write and sign petitions, but they won't follow simple guidelines to keep their own selves and somebody else safe. Do you see how fragility is operating in this country? It's so toxic now that women are walking their dogs, and then they're seeing a black man or a black woman, and they say that that person is suspicious, and they call the police on the telephone, saying that somebody needs to come down here. I fear for my safety. I fear for my life. Somebody needs to come because I'm afraid. And then the police show up, and they see nothing in distress, and they find that the whole thing has been recorded, and it was all an elaborate scheme and stage to get somebody else in trouble. Another woman has been found out. She was behind a car, and she was standing in front of a gate and wouldn't let a passenger drive outside of the gate. And so she called and she called for security, and then she called for the police, and she said, please come help me. He's hurting me. He's doing all these bad things to me. He's running over me with their car. Oh my goodness, they're hurting me. And the person was standing there with a video camera recording him. The car was in park. There wasn't anything moving. She was not in any danger or fear for her life. But I think what has happened is the fear of most in this country is what they have perpetuated onto others will now soon be coming back to them. The fear is that their privileges that they once enjoyed will soon be taken away. But what I see is revolution on the way. In the movie The Matrix, it demonstrates how when people go with the flow and when they break out of the matrix, what can happen. It is discovered that when you break out of the matrix, it is called a revolution. What is a matrix, you ask? A matrix is a type of mold into which somebody is shaped. Your mind is being shaped by TV and different types of media. But if you are going to get away from them, you can get out of the matrix that they're putting you in. Your shows that you are watching are flooded with advertisements, and you can't get these thoughts out of your mind. You're craving all of these wonderful things and all of these disgusting things, and you can't figure out, why do I keep thinking about this? It's because your mind is being bombarded with all of this stuff on TV. And if you were to just turn off the TV, if you were to just get away from the media, you would break yourself out of the matrix. you can think for yourself. You don't have to be subscribed to somebody else's thoughts and what they are telling you to think. In school, children are being presented with certain types of information and told that they must regurgitate that onto a piece of paper and prove that they have learned those things and are proficient in them. When the child goes home and learns the truth and comes back and tells the teacher that these are parts that you left out, then the child is considered a troublemaker. But the truth is, the child is a free thinker. Most of the time, when people come out and they find out that there are some things that they just don't agree with, they are considered a heretic. But they are not really a heretic, they are a free thinker. They are able to think for themselves. I don't subscribe to this. I don't believe everything with this. I don't believe everything with that. I got my own interpretation of what it is and what I believe. And they shouldn't be punished for thinking their own thoughts. But revolution happens slowly sometimes and very quickly sometimes. Have you ever heard of taxation without representation? Taxation without representation was a slogan back in the 1700s, but it occurred when the taxing authorities came along, such as a government, and they imposed taxes on the citizens and other entities, but they failed to provide any political voice for those who had elected representatives. In other words, we're going to tax you. We're not going to tell you why you're being taxed. You're going to just pay these taxes. And you better not ask any questions or you're going to get in trouble. And the people said, no, this is crazy. We need somebody to stand for us. We need somebody to speak for us. We need somebody to say something on our behalf. Because when you get to telling people what they're going to do with their money, you're going to have some problems if you don't let them know what they're doing and why they are doing it with their money. And yet, when people get their paycheck, 30 to 40% of their check has already been taken by Uncle Sam. Before they even offer up a dime, their money is already gone. We are headed for revolution. Life as we have known it is going to change. The old way of doing things will have to give way to the new way that's coming in. If you don't believe me, pay attention to Walmart. Walmart is getting rid of the cashier workers and implementing nothing but self-checkouts. They are not asking people. They are simply going and making a change. People are now shopping online. Amazon doesn't even have a store. Yet, it is putting other stores out of business because they are implementing change. You are able to get the same items from Amazon that you would have to drive to a store to go and get. And you don't even have to leave the comfort of your house. All you have to do is enter in your numbers, pick the item, press send, and pick the choice, and then it sends it to your house without any work. Smart TVs cannot be spoken to. You just say what you want the TV to do, and the TV goes and does it. Now, it has outdated the floor-mount TV. Music, it used to be on wax records. Then they went to the 8-track. And then from the 8-track, it went to the cassette tape. From the cassette tape, it went to the CD. From the CD, it went to the MP3 player. Change is all around us. We are in the midst of a revolution. America is waking up and seeing its ugly insides, all of its racism and bigotry and capitalist systems. It is being exposed. Being sheltered in place has exposed some of the nasty things that we need to reform in this country. Do you see it? I do. It could be simple. It can be solved. It can be fixed. Jesus said it this way: my yoke is easy and my burdens are light. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, and I will give you rest for your weary souls. So why is it so hard to obey something that is a common sense kind of law? Stuff that you can read in your own heart and understand. You don't have to be able to read and write to understand some of the things that God told you to do through the scriptures. You don't have to be smart and full of reading the Bible to understand you shouldn't go worship a tree. But yet there are people who actually need somebody to tell them, don't go out there and worship a tree that you can cut down. And so I will leave you with this. There's nothing wrong with being a free thinker. There's nothing wrong with thinking for yourself. Because when you do, you begin the process of revolution. I'll leave you with 3 points and I'll come to a close. The first thing is change is coming. And you can either be a part of it or you can be left behind. The idea is that when new things come, you create a new model and a new design that's so good that the other one is outdated and obsolete. The next thing is, point number 2, you can be the change that you want to see. A lot of people want change, but they don't want to do anything to help bring about the change. If that means that they must change themselves and they must change how they perceive things and how they do things, they will resist it and they will fight it because they have been accustomed to doing it a certain kind of way. And when you take away privileges and when you take away the way people do things and tell them this is the correct way to do it, sometimes you might get some pushback. Lastly, change is not going to come without some type of pushback. Those who have had the power for so long are not going to be so quick to just give it up just because you come with this new idea or with this new paradigm shift. When you come and you tell people who have been getting away with wrong for so long that this must change, you are getting ready for a fight on your hands. You can expect them to come and attack you from anything to your personal character, to whether or not you are honest or whether or not you are able to articulate yourself properly. But change is going to come, and when it does, there will be some type of pushback. There was no way the Southerners were going to give up their slaves when it's free labor and they don't have to pay anybody and they can make money and be rich off of that. When the North was saying, hey, why don't we just pay people $10 an hour, $12 an hour, and let's have industry and we can do all these things. And so the North and the South in these United States had a difference of opinion, and it was some pushback until ultimately the North won and the South had to get with the program. But they didn't stick with it. They just revolutionized how they would do slavery. They set the people free, but then they incarcerated them and made them work for free. So my brothers and my sisters, I'm saying to you, change is coming. Let's be a part of it. Let's be a part of the change. Let's be a part of the difference. Let's find our niche in this thing and just do what we're supposed to do. Let's ask God, what part and role do you want me to play in this thing? Why am I here on this planet? And how much time do I have to do what you want me to do? Because so much of life is wasted on having fun and pleasure and jokes and games. And then we realize that when we get to the end of it, we wasted a lot of time. But revolution is coming. Change is coming, and let's be a part of it. God bless you, and God keep you is my prayer, and may He bless you real good on today.